Welcome to Today in EVE Online. This is Matterall. Today's date is Friday, September 4th, 2020. I am here with Manixar. How's it going, Manic?
That's going good.
Also here off camera with Gregorin.
Hi.
So we're all from Talking in Stations. We're going to take you through some of the news that happened in EVE Online today. Or I should say in the last 24 hours. Today is a funny term in EVE Online because it's a global game. So somebody's today is somebody's tomorrow. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's have a look at what's going on Dotland. Looking at Delve in first place for most violent regions, 1,400 ships destroyed, over 1,000 pods. A lot of activity. I believe most of that activity is happening in the border right here, this system called ZXWB. We'll take a look at it on the map. This is a border region to Fountain where YTech 2 ANO in Fountain is on the other side of that. So you assume that that's just some border skirmishing going on there. So in ZXB, I think that was in the last 24 hours, 400 ships were destroyed there. So that's going to be a chunk of that. What puts Delve in first place? In second place, Fountain, 1,229 ships destroyed, 832. There was a big battle well, I should say there wasn't a big battle, but there was a Keepstar takedown where PAPI took down the YTech 2 Keepstar, but that did not actually have a lot of combat involved. Pretty much a straight kill. And in third place, Paragon Soul, 981 ships destroyed. In Empire region, you have Domain with 2,600. That's such a big number. Forge in second place with 2,327 ships destroyed. Those are huge numbers. And then the Citadel, 2,171. Again, these are pretty astounding numbers. And Lone Trek and Sync also with high marks. Lone Trek itself had over 2,000 ships destroyed today. And then Sync Zone and Metropolis and Essence, of course, those regions have less. But that is all thanks to Triglavians. Most violent systems, GMAC, 800 ships destroyed in the last 24 hours. Big battle there. We'll talk about that, right, guys?
Oh, absolutely.
TCAG is on the other side of the border with GMAC. So GMAC and TCAG go together. They call it TCAG and GMagic, actually. But these are abbreviations for the two systems that border Paragon Sol and Period Basis where they connect. And then most violent systems. Everything else looks pretty routine here. All right, let's jump to the big stuff. What do you think? What do you think about the Battle of GMagic?
Well, either tests were baiting a fight out, or a test pilot was caught out by a goon swarm in a Titan or Super, which is what kicked all this off. Apparently, goons had some dread staged somewhere in range of GMagic and Stain. Okay, makes sense. The interesting thing here is that goons were doing trading fairly well until Test dropped their Titans and their Supers. It took a little bit for them to form up and get ready to drop. What was interesting about this is Imperium forces also had a sizable super fleet aligned to the gate, ready to jump in. Now that never happened, but it could have. Nonetheless, Legacy forces lost 120 bill. Goon Swarm lost 300 bill. That's a hefty price tag for a battle that didn't end up really doing anything either way. If Imperium won this battle, it could have possibly turned into taking control of GMagic, and that could have been an issue in the South for Legacy Coalition. But that didn't ever transpired. For whatever reason, the order was never given to the Imperium Super Fleet to jump through the gate. which is always a bad tactical position coming through a gate with your super fleet. It's always best and preferable to jump to a Sino somewhere that you want to come into the battlefield rather than through the gate. So,
Yeah, look at this long jump. I mean, this is G Magic way over here in Paragon Soul. It jumps all the way to the bottom of period basis where TCAG is. So those
right,
two
yeah,
go
so
together.
it's a regional. So, and that's why the dreads that jumped in had to have come from like Stain. Because that's the only
Yeah,
thing that'd
from
be
what
in
I
your
heard,
range.
they gated a lot of their dreads as well. And it was a mix of gating some dreads and jumping the others from Stain.
Although you kind of got an idea of what Imperium has in the South now, though, I believe, at least on a fairly quick form up, which is, fairly impressive on both sides. Because I don't think this was expected to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a rage ping situation. It wasn't a CTA or anything like that. I don't think any pings went out until the action started happening, which, that's exactly like, BTEC-R and all these huge battles. This is how they usually start. And this could have transpired into that. Unfortunately, it didn't, because that would have been pretty cool to watch.
Well, there are some differences between this and BTAC-R. BTAC-R, you had both groups with everything in the same proximity. And right now we know that there are super capitals that are in the north, and this battle happened in the south. So at least as far as PAPI is concerned, all their ships are not in one place. They're in two different camps. What we didn't know is how big their southern power base was until last night. Same with the Imperium. They're in Delft, so they're a little more centralized. We'll take a look at the map. So the PAPI's way up here in Fountain and way down here in Paragon Soul, and that is an incredible distance. Whereas Imperium is a little more concentrated in the Delve region, but also period basis, which looks like it stretches far, but I don't know how many jumps that is because you can see some long jumps here between constellations. In any case, there's two theaters of combat, and this was the southern one. Go ahead.
Correct. And I believe there was pings going out for Horde and to possibly start forming up and coming down to join the fight as well, depending on what was going to happen. Legacy was mainly using their armor fleet, their armor super fleet, which is what they leave behind for home defense.
Yeah, this fight shows the advantage of having two super fleets like that, because even though their shield super fleet was deployed to kill the Keepstar, they had a super fleet ready to defend.
Have a look at that.
Yep.
Let's have a look at that.
Absolutely. 1 second here.
And I was in the Horde fleet that formed up for this fight, but it ended so quickly that we couldn't get there in time to be a part of the fight, so we ended up doing something else.
Wow. And let's talk about the anatomy of this fight. How did it go down? What were the stages of it? And then we'll talk about why it was important. Remember, we had when this was going down, we heard from some people who inform us about things that something was going down in G Magic. So we decided to have a look at it. How serious could this be? Is it, as was explained by Manixar, accidental fights that begin out of nowhere without any real objective can sometimes become events that are unplanned for, and those are the ones that spin out of control if the fleet commanders commit. And so that's what we were looking for. It's like, at what level have they committed? So we would ask, something going down G Magic, okay, great, but what's it involve? Okay, significant stuff, dreadnoughts and capitals. And then we ask, like, what's the escalation pattern? Is it going from subcapitals to dreads to super capitals? And the answer was yes. And so at that point we become very interested. So then we started looking into it. And apparently what happened is that Elo Knight was roaming around inside of Paragon Soul, Let's go back out to Paragon Soul. And, just skirmishing around, he was being followed by a Nightmare fleet. That's Nightmare battleships. They couldn't keep up with the Munins that Elo was in. And they ended up making it back to G Magic, way over here. Sorry, to TCAG. And I believe Tess then came and sealed off the gate at GL Magic. They kind of camped it. And I think this is where an accident happened. And one person or multiple people warped to the gate, which was too close, right? Because now they could come through the gate and have an immediate target right away. And the amount of ships that were on the G Magic side defending it were not sufficient to hold back the artillery or the Munins, basically. So they came through and started fighting. So it was a subcap fight, and Test was on the back foot. At this point, I'm not exactly sure what happened next, but Dreads came in, I believe, to take out some of the capitals. So then it became a bigger fight. Titans were called for the Imperium side, and Test, we didn't know what Test was doing, but apparently the super capitals, the only way for them to enter into this system was to jump the gate, because they can't jump. They're using their jump drives. This is too long a jump, too many light years. It's way out of range. So they had to cross through a gate, and that is a big risk. So they were aligning to the gate, and it looked like they were going to come in. But I don't know what dissuaded them, but I do know that Test immediately saw the situation and dropped the hammer. And so then you had, how many Titans were dropped? Do we know? Was it over 100 or? Well, we can have a look at that. We had the exact number yesterday, but as you can see, it's a pretty formidable Titan fleet and super fleet that jumped in on Test side. And that was a surprise. Didn't know there was that much stuff down there. Or that much firepower down there, I should say. So they really had an impressive showing, which meant at that point, because there was no super support for the Imperium's decision was to extract. And so they started extracting the carriers first. The dreadnoughts were staying behind, shooting and fighting, and a lot of those dreadnoughts went down. As you can see, all these red dreads died. So at the end of the day, what looked like a massive surprise attack defeat for Test was turned around through quick action of dropping everything and risking that, because the force that was coming for them could have escalated this into a BTAC-R. It was possible, if you can imagine the Imperium crossing into Paragon Soul with their super caps from the south. That could have been a big and messy situation to clean up. I'm not sure Test would have jumped into that. It would have been too risky. And at that point, you would have seen a pretty wounding battle against Test. And even if they had, even if Test had decided to go in when Imperium supers were on the field, there's no telling what would have happened. And a battle that kills 10 or 15 Titans is a morale crusher on some level. And right now, there's a lot of posturing for morale. So that's what happened yesterday. And I do believe that a lot of the credit goes to whoever called the Titans in right away to dissuade Imperium from escalating any further. And that meant that the battle rotated over time towards at least the ISK damage war, towards the Test or the Legacy. And it actually rotated pretty far, right? Because what was it? When we were hearing about it, it was Test was at 25% efficiency, and it was Imperium that was at 70%.
Yeah, Imperium was trading very well. They were actually winning the ISK war fairly heavily there at the start of the battle. Like I said, until Test brought in their supers and Titans. The the thing that is kind of surprising about this battle is the time in which it happened. So this is on both of the. This is outside of Goon's normal time zone, and also outside of Test. So this was a rage ping outside of normal hours on a weekday. So it's surprising this much stuff formed that quickly. And like I said, this is also Test's armor fleet, like I was alluding to earlier, because they have two, right? They have a shield super and Titan fleet, and they have armor super and Titan fleets. And the armor's for home defense, and you can see here it worked pretty well.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get a surprise guest to kind of fill us in on what happened here. But yeah, it was very interestingly too. There was a special prize in this fight. It's over here in the dreadnoughts under
The Vehement.
Galenti. Yes,
Yes,
This-
that helped the ISK a little bit, just a little bit.
yeah. This is what actually I remember when this was killed. It turned the tide on the ISK war. We were like, "Oh, that vehement! He's turning the tide on it." But you know, when you're retreating from a fight, you're going to lose a lot more. So even if you're winning a fight and you decide to retreat, it's possible you're going to lose a lot retreating and turn the battle in their favor of the people you were beating.
Oh yeah,
Let's
and
see.
there's a huge commitment on the Goonswarm side not to bring in their super and Titan fleet. I thought for sure that it was going to come in.
Yeah, we really thought this was going to be something big. It happened like in the middle of the evening for us, middle of the night for EU. So it would have caught a lot of people off guard. But in the end, I think to put this into perspective, it was, it was a knife fight in an alley, or a cat fight. Let's put it that way. Two cats came across each other, skirmished around, fought, and it seemed like the whole neighborhood was going to get involved. But then everybody went back to sleep. So it ends up not being a big deal. But there was potential here for a pretty big blow against Test. Instead, it was kind of turned around because here's the reason, and this is why it's important. This was a strength check. And I do believe that. And when we look at wars in EVE Online, we're not looking at stats because those come and go. And we're not even looking at single objectives because you need a lot of objectives to make a campaign. What we do look at is momentum. That's what we look at. And this could have been a momentum changer to some degree. And the strength check is to see like who has what where, like you were saying, Manixar, is what's Imperium got in the south.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
One thing that I also find interesting is that the Nightmare fleet is really one of these signature doctrine right now because no other coalition of their size can really sustainably fly it when they control the area where you get the blueprints.
All right. I'd like to welcome the commander of Test. Villy is here. We talked with him last night to see what the lowdown was. So we just went over some of the basics, Villy, but if you want to retread your steps there, what happened yesterday in G Magic?
Obviously it was a long night. We started the night in Fortaco 7, chasing off an Elo Knight Sacrilege fleet, and we chased him all the way down to G Magic. Pro God wanted to take a fight with Nightmares against those Sacrileges. Obviously the fleet was a bit smaller because we were in kind of the mood to just take a fight. He felt like he needed some cap support. He formed a pretty small super capital fleet to support himself, and after we had deployed that small fleet, and Elo had for the most part gotten away somewhat clean, they saw an opportunity to get some capital and super capital kills because the fleet they deployed was right on the gate, which means the tactical advantage that the regional gate offers was basically neutralized, and they made a play, I guess you could say. Jumped a whole lot of dreads in, went for the kill, went for the throat, and It didn't work out in the end. Legacy came up big, controlling the reinforcement path for Imperium, and we were able to pull out the win.
Yeah. Talk about the idea of the strength check and what this means. What a battle like this could reveal.
Well, the thing is, anytime during war, you have a lot of the time right now, we're seeing situations where, Imperium's like, oh, you can't form 1,000 Titans, and, oh, we're going to blob you into high hell. And it's like, okay, well, there's only so many stats you can look at in the game that tell you the reality of these situations. And when you ping super caps tackled, super fight happening to your whole alliance, everybody that can log in usually logs in. There isn't a whole lot of situations where people are like, super fight, I can do that tomorrow. I'm not going to log in, right? Usually everybody gets in the saddle and says, oh shit, let's go. So for this kind of a situation, you have an opportunity to actually see what people can form up. And, you don't get that opportunity very often. And I know for Test, a big scary component of this fight was a lot of our armor supercap fleet actually had their characters trapped in Fountain because they were on a Fortizar in Fountain, and you can't jump clone back to your armor supers. So even for us, this was a limited strength check because we couldn't actually even get to a lot of our armor supers. I could only really even use one of the 3 of mine. But you only have so many opportunities to see what an enemy is actually going to form when the dice are rolled, and obviously. The numbers I've heard from the Imperium side are super low, and I mean, there's a ton of different reasons why that was the case, I'm sure. And obviously, test numbers weren't perfect, but they were solid. And to us, it's just one of those things where it says, okay, this validates our thinking. What we believed about what they could form up, in this time zone at this kind of a situation is correct.
Yeah, who's credited with the quick thinking of ordering that fleet in, the supers?
I think that was just a combination of Hurley and ProGod and whoever was there just yelling, get them in, get them in, get them in. Because, we knew that we had a choice to either sacrifice the 25, 30 caps and 5 supers on the gate or make the call to go in, right? We were heavily bold at the time. So when you're in that kind of a situation, if you hesitate, all you do is continue to push the odds against yourself. If you wait, all you're doing is making things worse.
Well, what do you think a loss would have looked like for you guys if you hadn't gone in?
Well, if we hadn't gone in, we would have lost every cap on the gate with another 5 or 10 supers. I don't know exactly how many supers we had at the start, but something like that. Which,
survivable, isn't it?
I mean, the thing is, it's like the ISK does, well, I mean, the ISK does matter to a small degree, but like, much more about the morale in these kind of situations. It's a huge victory for Imperium if we lose that, right? They killed 5 supers in test space. They kill all these caps. Momentum and morale in this kind of a war, especially before we're in a situation where we're like actually in Delve, it is so fundamental to the setup of everything else, I guess you could say. Even a game where people logging in is so much more important than the ISK on hand.
Yeah, I was talking about momentum with the audience, just how important it is in war. We don't look at objectives necessarily, certainly not ISK, but we do look at momentum and morale.
Well, it's crucial to understand, right? EVE is a volunteer game. Nobody has to log in to help you. If things are going bad, people don't want to log in to sit through a 6-hour slog if they think their time is going to be wasted, or if they think that, they're just wasting their time because they're going to lose anyways, right? So it's such a crucial component of the way in which these wars are fought and the wars are decided. It is all based on how you manage that morale and how you treat your people. And in this fight, there was, a huge opportunity for the Imperium to absolutely take a hammer and smash the fuck out of our morale, right? I don't think the win that we got is as hefty as the risk in terms of what it would have represented, I guess. I mean, it's a beautiful win, don't get me wrong. But the risk and reward in this one, I don't think is quite equal yet.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to move on to the second. You can stick around if you like, Billy, since you're involved in both these things. We're going to move on to. Oh, by the way, here's a picture of the G Magic fight. I should have put that up earlier. Let me put that up now, so you guys can check this out. It's really kind of a beautiful picture there, by Willem Arcturus. He is from Goonswarm, but he took this picture out and put it out right when it happened. So it's time stamped when this was going live. I imagine that's tests, test ships out there. There's a bunch of Titans and fax machines, it looks like.
Yeah, it's when you get fights like this, especially when there's not like 1,000 Titans on grid, the scale of the Titans is much more apparent at times, and it actually generally, from what I found, makes those pictures that much more interesting, right? When it's just a beautiful picture and there's not a trillion Titans, but there's a few, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's quite good. All right, what happened in YTAC 2 today, Maniskar or Gagarin?
Keepstar died. The last Keepstar in Fountain.
So I think it was pretty much fairly uncontested as well. Looked like Test and NC Dot brought out their Titans to attack it, which left the Imperium with very little they could actually do against that. So it was to be expected, right? Since they did move their super fleet up. I think the more interesting thing out of this is going to be where they go next. All right, where that super fleet moves now. So that's going to be really interesting there. So yeah,
We had some pictures of this event. We did cover it live. If you want to see the video, it's a full hour, but only 15 minutes of it are the actual destruction of the Keepstar. The only thing that happened that was eventful was that how many Titans were out there? Do you remember, Billy?
I think we had 340.
Oh, it's
No.
not a bad
I think that's
showing.
my guess. No. I mean, it's about what I expect with, a large number of our Titans still sitting in Marmiha, and the fact that it's entirely uncontested, so there's no real pressure for people to show up.
Billy, didn't you once say that 340 is the most Titans the Imperium has ever formed?
Number pretty close to that, yeah. I think I might have said 370. I'm not sure, but it's something in that range, yeah.
Okay, that doesn't sound right because we had the war in Tribute where over 1,000 Titans were moved north.
There's a difference between what is moving and actually showing up on the field of a battle. Like we moved 1,000 Titans to Marmiha, or well over 1,000 Titans, but we don't expect 1,000 Titans to show up for every op. People going on move ops is over the course of multiple hours, multiple alts, in some cases multiple ships for the same person. Like it's just not the same figure, right? The Imperium has quite literally, like, anybody's welcome to prove me wrong if you can find a battle report that I'm tracking. 370, I think, is the number we had. So.
Wow. All right. Well, we'll have to check that out. But I think the only thing that happened here is that this guy right here, right? Yeah, there he is. The Titan from Fraternity got caught going to 0.
Yeah, I almost warped to the Keepstar at 0 as well. It's just you press the wrong button when you're looking at it or whatever.
Yeah, he managed to get out.
Yeah. I mean, if there isn't like a zillion defenders there, which there wasn't, right? There was just a few scepters and a couple dictors. They don't have a reasonable way to keep them there, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, I did see some bubbles go up, but there was just not enough to keep them around. Other than that, you think right about here is the actual destruction ring. That wraps it up for structures in Fountain, doesn't it?
I think there might be like 1 or 2 Fortizars left somewhere in Fountain, but like I'm not really tracking any. Like, there's no more Keepstars, there's no more Stratios. There might be a Tatar or Fortizar that Horde hasn't killed, but
your strategic targets are.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's particularly worried about anything that's left.
Yeah. Actually, let's go back to Fountain.
I know that I've been told that as a member of Horde to get ready to move, and because there is no real big target left.
That sounds about right.
All right. We also heard, as far as ownership of constellations, there's been some changes. Well, actually, before we go on, let's just review how many. Before we go on, let's just review. There were actually six Keepstars that were destroyed: J5A, IGE, CTAC-N, OTAC-PN, KVN, YTAC-2. That completes 6 Keepstars that were destroyed in Fountain. Most of the strategic targets are over. Most of the territory and iHubs belong to Pandemic Horde, but that's starting to change. What'd you hear, Grigorin?
Yeah. Earlier today, I got a lot of notifications about solve structures, self-destructing iHubs and TCUs, and later on, while passing through Fountain for a fleet, I noticed that a lot of the solve, particularly around the constellation of Pegasus, is now held by Nulsechnaya Shalupin. So it looks like we transferred the Sov to them.
Yeah, let's see if I can pick up their. Here they are. Of course, not to be confused with Low Sechnaya Schulpen.
Very different groups.
Yeah, which is crazy. Why did they name themselves so closely? Like one of the. Oh, Berneden is in here. That's interesting. Well, that's very interesting. Berneden used to belong to. Well, they have their historic corporation.
Berneden was Berneden.
Yeah. But they
back when corporations could still be relevant as corporations.
Yeah, they were a very relevant corporation. Wouldn't you agree?
Probably the premier guerrilla warfare corporation in EVE, I would say, for the better part of 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, these guys were inventive. They, I think, they did the missile ravens or something, where they would launch the missiles. Oh, I'm not going to explain it because I don't remember it, but they would basically land on you with a huge volley.
Damp Ravens. No, what Berneden did was originally Damp Ravens. They did a variety of different tactics over the years. They were pretty innovative. Cavalry Ravens, I don't think were Berneden. They were well before that. They were like Cavalry Ravens are like 2004, 2003. But Berneden was definitely one of the most innovative, groups of the time, and the 10 people I think that really, the 10 members that really kind of like put them like they were a very small knit group, right? And they were just incredibly well known, respected, feared, kind of thing, just in their ability to oppress an area.
Right, and you also have Iron Guard in here, which is the bigger group, and they have an interesting history of being independent for a while. They did join Goons for a little while. They're the ones that stole a lot of the ammo out of the structures in Fountain recently. And here they are again, now taking Sov.
Yeah, Iron Guard used to live in Fountain previously, if I recall. They had some fun names for their Phoenix Doctrine and some other stuff. Coast Guard Phoenixes, I think they used to be, something like that. They're a pretty interesting crew when they were a little more independent, but now as part of Nulsechnaya, they're definitely kicking it up into the next gear, showing their skills and putting a front face forward.
So this is a pretty talented group for their size.
Nulsechnaya is very talented for their size. We fought them in Cache, I should say.
Cache, yes.
CACHE. During the Cache War, the war right before this war, and they're very capable and not a small group to be trifled with. And they've been camping the one smeb area of Dell for the better part of the last month and a half, and absolutely just hammering goons. So I definitely feel like they're out to kind of prove their strength and show their colors.
They're the ones that picked off that Titan not that long ago, like a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, they were.
They've actually picked off 2 Titans now, right? So they picked off the Hypernet Titan. They also got the Initiative Titan that was trying to blue tank out, and I think they might have got one before that too.
Yeah, they definitely got a blue tanking Titan earlier.
By the way, I can confirm we guessed it. Billy pointed it out last time, but we said that's a weird Titan. What happened? Did he strip the fit? And it turns out it was a HyperNet accident. Somebody bought it or got it on the HyperNet, undocked it, asked for help, and they helped him take it to the kill boards. So
Yeah, they grabbed an in Fences Hell as well, which is a former Initiative renter, or I can't remember who they were living in Fountain pre-war. So
yeah. All right. Well, those are the big stories. The battle in G Magic and the YTAC 2 Keepstar is down, ending the military targets in Fountain for PAPI. I expect move ops over the weekend, maybe, or during next week. What's going to happen?
well, this is pretty much the end of phase 2, and we're now just about to start phase 3. So it's going to be logistical, little bit of, well, we've already been doing lots of the logistical work, and we're going to continue obviously for the next little bit, and then we'll get our ops posted, and we'll see you soon, boys.
So what's the plan for Fountain now that it's done? Surely you can't just leave it, right?
I guess we'll see. Suffice to say, there is at least some plan. So I don't think that revealing any of that information is necessarily something that gains anybody anything at this point. But certainly there'll be lots of opportunity for you guys to see how Fountain will develop over the coming months, if not years. So.
Well, my prediction is that you're going to have to fill it in order to get ADMs up to make it less attractive to just come right back and take it again. So
well, that's a misconception about how ADMs work.
Okay.
So like ADMs are good and they help defenders defend when the fight is kind of even, I guess you could say, and they're good to prevent minor harassment. That's what the importance of ADMs is, when the fight is somewhat even and just to prevent minor harassment. But if an entity is going to come into Fountain, the reality is that either the defenders are going to be able to hold them or they're not. There's very little. When people say, "Oh, they need to ADM things up," it's just not really accurate in that sense. It's much more a situation where you're putting people to live there so that you have people to actually live there, actually defend there, start the process of getting the previous inhabitants used to not living there, etc.
Right.
So,
which I think it was more important in like when Legacy and Fraternity were going at it. That war, the ADMs played a little bit more important role than they would here.
Yeah, when you have opposite time zones, they definitely play a role. But obviously, and as I said, like when the forces are somewhat even, right? And especially in Fraternity's time zone, there was a fair bit of that. So.
Right. Well, I could see like if nothing happens with Fountain and Goonswarm is waiting for you guys to attack in the south, that they can creep up into the north and get some momentum going, right? Like get some.
Well, not really, right? So the thing is, they can go in and attack Fountain, but like, what are they going to do? Start placing down new high ups that they can't really control, right? Like it's on the other side of a regional. Mm-hmm. So any incursion for them into Fountain is ones to slow or make the new inhabitants' life harder, right? To try and disincentivize them from living there. But it's not one of those things where they're actually going to be able to say, haha, we're going to retake Fountain while you're over here, because that's just not something they can realistically do.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess the question would be like, well, what are you going to do with it now? But I would imagine that would be some easy wins for them to just kind of get some points on the board, basically. But who knows?
I mean, if they really put the effort in, I'm sure they can kill some hubs, but something tells me they're going to be plenty busy, and if that's where they want to invest their effort, then we're probably okay with that.
All right. But the scorching of Fountain is over, and you're saying that you're moving into phase 3. We'll see what that looks like coming soon in the next few weeks, I suppose. All right. That's all the news that we have today. We will Sunday talk to Mission Runner Extraordinaire Hateless, so check that out. He is really good at what he does. He's an amazing mission runner. And later on, we're going to have an exclusive with, well, I shouldn't say exclusive because he might talk to other people, but we're going to be the first one to interview Andrew Groen on the occasion of his new book being published, and that is the sequel to Empires of Eve 2. So we'll talk to him in about a week. And so again, this Sunday, we're going to talk about hate lists, talk about missions, and then more news all week long, and then Andrew Groen as well, special interview with him. Anything else you guys have?
Not tonight.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
All right, we definitely hit the big stories. What do you got, Billy?
Oh, no. This is, whenever the show's done, we can talk about it. It's just fun propaganda.
Yeah, all right. Leave the propaganda off. We'll talk about that off. If you guys want to join us and hear what the propaganda is, you're welcome to come into Talking in Station's Discord and hang out. Everybody is welcome from anywhere. We have people from Imperium there all the time. So we will see you next time. Until then, we're going to raid. So hang out.